Hello everyone, and welcome to the first video in my series where I discuss all things archaeological. For today's episode, I want to talk about a subject that has been on the news lately, and it involves one of my favorite peoples, the Neanderthals. As it's known, Neanderthals were our cousin hominids. We lived alongside them and with them for many millennia in Europe and the Near East. These articles that I will be talking about deal with an aspect of their lives that is just emerging. From a few sites in Europe, we have found evidence that Neanderthals practiced cannibalism. The first article, published by Nature magazine, titled Neanderthal Cannibalism and Neanderthal Bones Used as Tools in Northern Europe, shows us a study done on material collected from the Troisième Caverne of Goyer in Belgium. And here is a map to show where the cave is located. This picture shows the actual cave entrance of the Troisième Caverne. Now, this cave system was first excavated in the late 19th to early 20th centuries, and again in the late 1990s. The first to excavate the cave was Edouard Dupont in 1868. He describes 5 fauna-bearing levels, the oldest of which has since been dated to between 40.5 to 45.5 thousand years before present calibrated. The sequence that Dupont describes covers the periods of Middle and Upper Paleolithic to historical times. Basically from the Neanderthals to modern humans occupied that cave. Upon re-examining the remains excavated by Dupont, which were highly fragmented, as shown from this picture, it was found that butchering marks were present in the Neanderthal bones. This has led researchers to conclude cannibalism was practiced by the Neanderthals. Nearly a third of the Neanderthal specimens bear cut marks. The location of the limited number of cut marks observed in the upper limbs may indicate disarticulation, whereas those of the lower limbs are consistent of defleshing. Several cut marks on the internal and external surfaces of the ribs may be connected to evisceration, dismemberment of the thoracic cage, and removal of the thoracic muscles. And additional cut marks on the median side of the mandibles, close to the mandible condyle, appears consistent with dismemberment. 2 types of depercussion marks, notches and pits, were identified, observed on a single radial radius alongside several femurs and tibias. Notches are likely connected to the fracturing of fresh diaphysis and marrow extraction. Percussion pits were common and probably indicate failed attempts at fracturing bones. Both percussion notches and pits were also identified on 8 bones, as you can see from these 2 pictures. This is the first such evidence found in northern areas of Europe. Just to give an example of where the bones belong that are mentioned in the study in the skeleton, I provide you with this image where you can see the cut marks on the bones and where they came from. What has also emerged from the material of Goyer is the use of Neanderthal bone fragments as tools. While animal bone retouches are common in European Middle Paleolithic context, Goyer is one of only 4 sites, Caprina in Croatia, L'Aquina and Les Pardals in France, to have yielded retouches of Neanderthal skeletal elements, and are sold to have produced multiple examples. At Caprina and Les Pardals, femur shaft fragments were used as retouches, whereas the L'Aquina example is on a parietal fragment. According to the criteria proposed by Mayel et al., the blanks used for the Goyer retouches made on Neanderthal bones were most likely green due to the absence of scaled areas, and in addition 2 of the 5 retoucher areas exhibit concentrated and superimposed marks, which imply prolonged use. The rectilinear morphology of the marks also support the use of the bones for retouching flint flakes, the most common raw material found at Goyer. Normally, animal bones were the common material used in European Middle Paleolithic sites. As was noted, Goya is only one of 4 sites where Neanderthal bones were used to make tools. Just to explain what a retoucher is, it is a tool used to finish off stone implements, either to correct an edge, produce a new one if it is damaged, or to recycle old tools into new ones. The retouchers were either made of bone, ivory, or antlers. The second article is from Life Science and is entitled Neanderthals Were Cannibals, Study Shows, a totally non-controversial title. In this article, it shows us a study of material excavated from El Sidron cave in Spain, as you can see from the map. And here is the entrance to the cave. Neanderthals suffered periods of starvation and may have supplemented their diet through cannibalism, according to a study of remains from northwestern Spain. Paleobiologists studied samples from 8 43,000-year-old Neanderthal skeletons excavated from an underground cave in El Sidron, Spain, since 2000. The study sheds light on how Neanderthals lived before the arrival of modern humans in Europe. Researchers found cut marks and evidence that bone had been torn apart, which they say could indicate cannibalism. There is strong evidence suggesting that these Neanderthals were eaten, said the study leader author Antonio Rosas of the Museo Nacional de Ciencias Naturales in Madrid. That is, long bones and the skull were broken for extraction of the marrow, which is very nutritious. According to Rosas, there is evidence of cannibalism in Neanderthal remains from other European sites. As the data from El Sidron indicates, they may have resorted to cannibalism in times of hardship. That is seen by the teeth from the remains. I would say this practice was general among Neanderthal populations, he said. Teeth from the remains showed evidence of periods of starvation or minimal nutrition, particularly during difficult life transitions like weaning or adolescence, according to Rosas. Teeth grow by adding thin layers of enamel, but when some changes in the natural development of the individual occurs, the enamel is deposited more slowly or stops altogether. Rosas explained, outside forces like climate or illness could also affect tooth growth, he said. So, most harsh winters together with physiological difficulties in the life history of these people may explain what we found, Rosas told Life Science. Rosas' team also noticed that southern Neanderthals had whiter, flatter faces than northern Neanderthals. Exactly why this variation is seen is still a matter of debate, but according to Rosas, the most likely explanation is adaptation to the climate. For example, people exposed to the cold environments of the north may have developed longer noses for heating the air, he said. Now, these articles demonstrate that Neanderthals did indeed practice cannibalism, whether it was due to hardship, as the El Sidron evidence suggests, or a funerary ritual, we don't really know. We can only infer from analogous practices evidenced from modern humans. And we conclude this analysis of Neanderthal cannibalism. I want to thank everyone for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. All the sources are in the description, of course, so cheers. Thank you.